Hello, I'm Nick, and this is the second episode of the Jack of All Beanstalks podcast. Thank you for coming here to listen to me on this fine Saturday. I'm recording this Saturday morning, so I'm assuming it's going to go up sometime about Saturday morning, Saturday about noon, afternoon, I don't know, whatever. Anyway, point is, I actually recorded kind of a version of this second episode earlier in the week, and I had just taken my medication in the morning, and I didn't realize how much it was affecting me. But I listened back to it, and I sounded like Eeyore. I was like half asleep, and as confusing and stream of consciousness as my thought patterns can go, they were even more all over the place than usual. So yeah, it was not good. So I'm re-recording this, and that's good. It's good to do. I think just an episode at the end of the week because you kind of build up to it. You've got some news items to go over if you want to go over them. I'm not gonna lie. I'm really not on fire about the idea of doing like any sort of news updates to the podcast, at least to any real official capacity. Like this is just, I should probably just establish that right out of the gate. Is just that this is a fireside chat style, really, with just my thoughts, but also some perspective on maybe some things that are happening in the world, but not really. That's not really the central focus. It is more of just kind of some thoughts and ideas that have been maybe building in my head over kind of the last week with some pop culture thrown in. But there's been a lot of stuff happening over the last week in pop culture, and obviously weather-wise. With I tell you, does anybody else well, Dorian, right now as I'm recording this, Dorian is still barreling toward the country, I think. It's about to slam Florida and the whole southeastern portion of the country pretty much on Labor Day, and for go up the coastline. I think on Tuesday, it might be like the first such storm to hit landfall in the first time in what was it, 30 some years or something, even longer than that maybe. I can't even remember, but the storm is ridiculous. That's all I know for sure. Is that Dorian's just getting ridiculous. It's every time you see a news update about it, it's not just that it's not like a small detail. It's that the storm is going up to a different level. You get that? Like I remember when they first announced it was level 3. Then like hours later they announced it was up to level 4, and now the last thing I looked at just this morning said that it was possibly going to go up to level 5. I think. I don't mean to. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but it's just reminding me of the movie Twister, and that just makes me laugh. It's like 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes, a character like turns around and goes, "Oh my God, guys, level 5! It's coming straight for us!" And I'm like, it just keeps getting more and more powerful. It gets to the point where it's a little bit ridiculous and oddly funny. I don't know. I hope everybody's okay down there, though. I really do. I'm lucky. I've never had to live on the coast. I've never had to live down there anywhere near there. I've been down there a little bit, and it's pretty good. I was a kid when I went way down there, so all the I don't remember all of the wonderful things to enjoy about Florida, and maybe that's for the best. But yeah, I've never had to deal with that. I've been lucky. I've never had to live on the coast. I've never lived out there, so I've never had to really worry significantly about earthquakes, hurricanes, even fires. Not really. Just it's worked out for me that I've never really had to deal with. I've never lived anywhere of any big fires. Obviously, California has looked like a hellscape a couple times over the last couple of years. It's been terrifying. I do have a lot of friends out there, a lot of buddies and acquaintances out there out west. So I hope they're all okay. I hope they've been okay, and I really hope that we're spared that next couple of years. But Yeah, I've never had to deal with it. I've always been really lucky where I've never had to deal with significant big weather like that, weather situations, hurricanes like that. It's just I've never had to deal with it. So every time this happens, and if it's like this, where it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and more intimidating, like every other couple of hours, it gets to, for me, to be honest, it gets to the point where it gets surrealistically funny. I'm like, wow, I really, it's like fire and brimstone are finally raining down from the sky, and anything can happen. I know that, there's we could follow the president's advice and shoot nukes at it. Maybe see if that can work. That sounds ridiculous, but you know what? You gotta admit it is like if he. I don't know if he actually said that, but if he did, you've got to admit it really is kind of ridiculous when you really think about it that we don't have some way of defending against things like that. I'm sorry, but it just like what the threat to those people is real. And I'm not trying to trivialize it at all, but I'm just saying I'm sure they're thinking the same thing. Like it's nutty that we don't have some system of some sort that can somehow defend against hurricanes or big storms like that and somehow keep it at bay. I don't know. It's one of those things where we look at all the technology that we have, and then suddenly, every once in a while, something comes along where all of that is just meaningless. It's like the most we can do is just look at it and tell other people what it looks like it's going to do. That's all we can do, and we can't do anything else. We can't send like some sort of first responder in to like go down into the storm and find some way of like removing a magic rock that became enchanted and cursed 5,000 years ago to plague the men of the shore. Like, because there's no daring adventure that like we can send the first responders on to go find the thing and stop the source of the storm. There's nothing that we can do. Like even with fires, you can kind of do that because there are certain firemen, like elite squadrons of firemen, who their whole job is to set like special controlled fires in front of the bigger fire that basically burns everything in the fire's path already, so that it can't actually burn that stuff itself and spread out, right? So there are ways of stopping some of those big like apocalyptic occurrences like that. But I mean, also obviously for earthquakes, like we can't do anything about earthquakes. We can't really do anything about tsunamis. We can't do anything about these big storms. We can do nothing. All we can do is just look at it and say, yeah, it's coming this way, and oh crap, everybody get out of the way. That's all we can do, and it's really nutty that that's still the case. I don't know. But I really hope it turns away. I guess that's the thing about this is that you don't know for sure. It could turn away and avoid us completely. But it looks like that's not going to happen. But it could. So who knows? But yeah. So that's the most I really know about that because I've everything I really know about Dorian I've seen just from Facebook updates. I haven't seen on the news. I don't really watch the news anymore. I'll probably watch the news more when the presidential election kicks into gear next year and the latter half of this year. Probably about November or so. I don't know. Uh, but yeah, I really don't. How many of you out there like really still watch cable news too? I know a lot of members of my family actually still do. The older ones and the ones who are more middle aged and some of the younger ones, I guess. But like I don't know. I don't really get my news from cable news at all anymore. I've really crossed over into just like surfing the web all the time for everything, like surfing Facebook and my Google feed for absolutely everything. And it really But yeah, like that feels like all I need because when I turn on cable news, it just looks like a game show now. I'm not kidding. It just looks like it's talking heads. You flip MSNBC, it's one point of view, Fox, it's another, and you pick the one you agree with. And yeah, there's nothing. And even when it comes to the weather, it's like you can look this up on Google and read it yourself, and that's it. And otherwise, you've got people, you can see people on the scene, which is probably worth seeing, but still, like, it always reaches this point where they talk for like 5 minutes and they give you all the information that's really pressing that you need to know, and then they're done with all of that. So then they have somebody else go back and basically say the same thing for another 5 or 10 minutes, and then they keep repeating that for, I guess, like 12 hours if they really need to. And that's gotta suck for them. As somebody who's worked in the news industry, sometimes it's hard not to feel like you're just repeating something that a lot of other people already know sometimes, if they depending on how adapted they are to social media, or depending on how well the information spread over social media, you can feel like you're just repeating something that somebody else already said. But that's also gotta suck if you're on TV though too, and you feel like you gotta do that every 5 to 10 minutes because you're thinking about all the people who obviously are turning their TVs on at any given time, and that's why they repeat the shows later and later on in the night. They just repeat the same shows over again because everybody wants to catch it. But yeah, that's got to be a drag because you've got to feel a little bit useless, right? For all of your resources, you're just waiting on the next thing to happen, and that's it. And that's also true for the presidential for the presidential election because you can talk to the candidates and come up with some interesting questions to ask, but if you can't ask them yourself, then you've just got to do an opinion show. Where you just spout your opinion for 15, 20 minutes. Whether you're Rachel Maddow or whether you used to be Bill O'Reilly, I guess. Yeah, like that's all you can do. And um, that's all you can do, and it's gotta feel a little bit trivial at times because it's like, okay, that's my opinion. That's one person's opinion, so now move on to the next guy. And sometimes you could probably have more productive and fruitful conversations with your own friends. I don't know, but it's got to be a drag. It's got to be a drag to work for that. It's got to be a drag. It's got to be depressing, I think, especially if you're working on coverage of something like Dorian, where it is exciting, but again, like we can only look at the dang thing. We can't influence it in any way, so who knows, right? But I hope everything turns out all right there. I really do. I really do hope everything turns out all right there, as best as it can, at least. Yeah, that's really that's really all I got to say for that as far as that goes. But there has been all kinds of pop culture news though as well. The less important things. There's been uh, at least two really big movie trailers out this week. Joker and Terminator. I'm really excited for Joker. I really don't care about Terminator at all. Um, yeah, Joker looks interesting. It just looks really interesting because Joaquin Phoenix is in it. Obviously, terrific actor. It looks like he's gonna be already getting a lot of Oscar buzz for that role. Uh, what makes me laugh though, I didn't even mean that as a double entendre actually, but yeah, it really does make me laugh though that the Joker has now become, because of Heath Ledger's performance, the Joker has now become like one of those big roles that actors aspire to for like character studies and stuff. Uh, at least that's partly true. And I worry if it's too much of a good thing in that way, though. Too, I worry if it's too much Joker, and we're gonna become oversaturated with it. You know, Heath Ledger just won the Oscar 10 years ago, but it really wasn't that long ago, especially in terms of pop culture. Yeah, so like he just won the Oscar for this, and it feels like we're. I think really it feels like we're trivializing that in some way if we suddenly have this other version that comes along that people think is just as good, maybe for different reasons, but still, like there's only so many takes you can do on the same material before it starts to feel like they're just doing it just to make money, no matter how good Joaquin's performance is. So yeah, that's. Don't get me wrong. I'm still going to see it because that's the whole question. I feel like people are going to see this just to see how interesting they can possibly make it. So yeah, that's really it's. It's like the weather, you're just guessing. All you can do is look at the trailers that come out and go, oh, it looks like that. So I guess that's probably what that is. So the new trailer does look interesting, though. I do like how they're able to. He's able to sell the ticks of that character really well, and we've only seen a small amount of footage. So, again, like in spite of myself, I'm still definitely going to see it. Don't get me wrong. I'm definitely going to see it, and I'm definitely still excited about it. But not really excited about Terminator. Terminator is the kind of movie I think that I'm going to feel excited about while I'm walking into the theater, and then I'm going to feel ashamed of myself for being excited about it afterwards. It's like, yeah, I really, I hope it's good. I think they've been flogging a dead horse with that franchise since the second one. I think most people think that. So I hope this is something special. But again, I think that's the way a lot of people feel now, though, too, is they just feel like it's a big question mark. Like I hope it's good, but I have no reason to really think it's gonna be anything special. Because frankly, if I'm being honest, besides the fact that Linda Hamilton's there, it really looks exactly like the sort of Terminator movie you'd expect in terms of it's just Linda Hamilton's back as Sarah Connor. John Connor might be in it, but we don't know for how long. He might get killed off in the first act or something. I've heard people say that a lot, and that looks. I don't know. For some reason, they're protecting another person now, a young girl. They're protecting because she's going to be super important, supposedly, in the future. And there's another Terminator, or at least an enhanced human who came back to keep her safe from a Terminator that was sent back to kill them. So it's Linda Hamilton and a Terminator protecting a kid from an evil Terminator. And at some point, Arnold Schwarzenegger shows up, and even in the trailer, it does look kind of cool. But I mean, who knows, man? It looks like T2 done over again. It looks predictable. I hope it's good. I haven't really looked up a lot of the behind the scenes stuff about it, so I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what, if anything, is supposed to really make it that special. Besides the fact that they finally got a Terminator movie to be rated R again. So yeah, I'm cynical. I'm kind of being a cynical jerk about that. I'm just not really. I know what I'm gonna do though. Actually, I'm gonna say that I'm not fired up about it for a long time, and then I'm gonna be super excited to go see it in theaters. I know that's what I'm gonna do because that's what we're all gonna do. You're gonna give your money to this thing. That's the point, right? You're gonna give your money to this thing. It doesn't matter. Uh, we're all gonna do the same thing. So let's just all hope it's good, I guess. Yeah, you're all these things are all just to make money. Um, and speaking of the Spider-Man deal, uh, yeah, that was the other thing that was I was genuinely. It's funny now thinking about it because that news broke. I think either just before or just after my last podcast. I think it was like 11 days ago, so it'd be a couple days before my last podcast. But yeah, because I remember after I did it, I put that last podcast out, and I was like, oh, I really want to talk about the Spider-Man shenanigans in my next podcast. I hope that it doesn't come to a speedy conclusion before I put the next podcast out. Yeah, so it looks like uh, that deal basically fell apart, and it looks like they're still negotiating behind closed doors, but trying to keep it really quiet. Um, that was the last I heard anyway. For all I know, there's actually been more news, and the talks really are dead right now. But I don't buy that the talks are ever totally dead. I think that this is just me talking out of my behind, so I could be totally wrong about this, but I feel like Marvel and Sony are basically saying to themselves, hey, we don't really need to show Spider Man in much of the movies at all going forward until we absolutely do, like 5 to 10 years from now. In which case, we can renegotiate then. That's the thing. I feel like that's the thing about the negotiations is you can always, always, always just renegotiate, right? It doesn't matter if the last deal fell apart. You can always make a new deal, and there are factors in play right now. There's the whole Sony's whole experimentation with its own cinematic universe of the Spider-Man villains, and who the heck knows whether that's going to amount to anything. Venom was surprisingly good, if only because of Tom Hardy. Jared Leto is starring in a Morbius, the Living Vampire. Yeah, he's starring in a movie about that Spider-Man villain. There's gonna be like at least one movie with the Sinister Six getting together and facing off against Tom Holland, I think. And so who knows whether that's gonna work? But I think that's the whole question right now. Is I think that's what both Sony and Disney are waiting on, is to see if those turn out decently at all. Is if Sony's own little Spider-Man universe works out at all. And if it works out well, then Disney's going to be on the back foot, but they're still going to probably come to negotiate. They're just going to give Sony more money. And if Sony's ideas fall through, which frankly is what it kind of looks like is going to happen, it looks like it's going to be a piece of crap. I'm not going to lie. It looks like they're only churning out those movies to hold on to Spider-Man, and that's it. So it looks like it's really going to it looks like it's going to fail. So if Sony fails, then they're going to come crawling back to Disney 5 years from now, or in less time, like in a year or less from now, maybe, and we all do this song and dance one more time. So I'm really not worried. Like I'm I guess you could say I'm cynical enough not to be worried about it, if that makes sense, because I'm cynical enough to know that anytime they say negotiation is over, that's just until the next negotiation starts. I really don't buy the idea that they're not going to be able to come back to work something out, especially with how passionate I think the audience is about this version of Spider-Man and about him being in the MCU and being the successor to Iron Man and all of that stuff. I just think I feel like at this point, actually, the announcements that the talks have fallen through, or anytime you see that a rumor has been leaked, that's probably something that was leaked on purpose as part of the negotiating tactics. That's probably part of the tactics, is they're saying they're letting things leak out of the room where they're negotiating to put pressure on the other person from the public. So I'm like I say, that's why I say I'm cynical enough to be optimistic that they won't, I don't think they won't let this end in an unpleasant way, and have that be the permanent end. They won't let it end without Spider-Man in the MCU and have that be the real ending, because it puts too many butts in seats. It makes the audience like both Sony and Marvel too much when they work together for them to sacrifice that completely. So unless these unless these movies about the Spider-Man villains really blow everybody's minds, and like Venom was surprisingly good in terms of Tom Hardy's performance at least, but I mean that's really, let's be honest too, this is kind of a tangent, but that was the only reason that Venom was really great, was because of Tom Hardy's performance. And really, when it comes down to it, he's a dude doing a job, and he does his job of acting very well. Acting is a job, and he nails that job very well. And that's why Venom worked when, frankly, everybody in the world felt like it shouldn't. So, yeah, I mean, that's it. So that's my way of saying I don't think these other movies are going to be anything special just because Venom turned out to be surprisingly good. I don't think it had anything to do with anything other than the fact that Tom Hardy does a good version of that character for whatever that version was supposed to be, and that's it. So yeah, I look to Sony to come crawling back to Marvel. Really, is what I'm saying. But again, in any case, I think that I think we can rest assured that Spider-Man's going to be able to come back to the MCU in some capacity sooner than we think and sooner than it feels right now. So yeah, I not really not really holding my breath or waiting on pins and needles about the results of that too much right now. So plus it feels longer than it actually has been when it comes to that, right? It's been like 11 days and it feels like it's been a month already. It's been pretty nutty, but I think it's only been about 11 days according to my Facebook feed, 11 or 12. So, yeah, I don't know, but I think that that's the way that's gonna go. So really, but that's been my week though so far. Other than work, that's been my week has been uh waking up early, go work out, going to work, and when I can, checking in on the news from Dorian and uh about the new film trailers and the Spider-Man deal. That's really been my whole week actually. Now that I think about it, so uh yeah, like I said, just get my news from that. So that's what's been on my mind now for the past week. So really, if there's something else guys like to hear me talk about or think about in upcoming episodes, let me know. But I'm probably gonna have hopefully gonna have some guests on soon to talk about some other stuff too here in the upcoming. I'll keep you posted on that. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. Like, leave any comments you want to, any constructive criticism or praises of anything. Just let me know what you think, and I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, and see you next time, brothers and sisters.